Appreciate it. Thank you very much. So long and short, I guess the squeaky wheel gets the grease. I've been going up to Circle of Friends every chance I get, rattling the cages, so to speak, no pun intended, and finally got them to agree to at least a trial period with a contract and taking our animals. So this is going to be a last resort situation still. We're always going to try to find the owner of the animal, find another solution before we get to that point, but at least we now have a place to take animals. When I say animals, I mean dogs, because we don't do cats, but we'll have a place to take dogs now if and when we need to. So again, that's with the city signing off on the contract that I just presented to you. And I would stand for any questions that you might have about that after you have a minute to look at it. My understanding is they don't do the rabies quarantine, period.
But they're assuming rabies quarantine as the dog is showing signs of rabies, not necessarily rabies.
Basically what that is say a dog bites somebody and the owner can't provide proof of vaccination, then there's a 10-day quarantine period that dog has to be segregated from other animals and people, and they're saying they won't take the dogs for that purpose.
I just want to make sure they're not saying come take rabies if we didn't know if they didn't have a rabies vaccine.
Right, nope, they're just saying they won't hold them if that's the only reason we're holding them is for a quarantine. And our current practice with that is to have the owner quarantine them at home with us checking on them.
Any questions for Steve on it? Jared, does everything look okay now?
Looks fine to me.
Any other questions?
I guess what I would ask then is if the city is willing, I would ask for the city to sign the contract as a city, understanding that the city is the one financially responsible, absent the owner coming forward, and then the owner would be the one bearing the cost.
And Jared, we could go, we can't go on property, but we go out on other.
I don't think so, no. I'll definitely look into it. I know I'll try to assess the costs against them, but this one's a little detached from the property itself.
So we could put it on as utility.
Generally speaking, this would be if we can't identify an owner, so then you wouldn't really have anybody to go after anyway.
Right.
Right.
Otherwise, when they go to pick the animal up, then they would just pay directly themselves.
Everybody agree with it? So, I have a motion to approve.
Move that we approve the agreement for boarding
I'll get them to execute their signature on that, and then I'll get you a copy, Casey.
Sweet, thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Anybody that doesn't necessarily want to keep their copy, I'll take those back. So we use the same contract, whatever you want to keep yours. Thank you. Thank you. And I'll get you a signed copy,
Yep.
so you guys have it to look at.
Anything else?
I'm good, that's what I had. I would stand for any questions from the commission.
Any questions?
All right, thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll go back to the minutes from August 18th and September 2nd. I know that there's one that I had seen was the date was off.
The September 2nd ones?
Yeah.
Yep, I saw that too.
Okay. So get that changed. Any other changes or additions to the?
The second, or the last page, I'm not sure if I'm reading it wrong, it says the last bullet on the first, on the second line, after letters are sent out, public works in mobile letters. Will those be letters or lawns?
Probably lawns. Yeah. Was that on August 18th or? Yeah, it would have been 18th.
Yes, and then, just minor, but down below it, acres is spelled wrong in those two lines.
Okay, acres, and then,
And acres is a bullet point in the same.
okay. And then on the September 2nd questions, or meeting minutes, Abby had questions in the areas highlighted in yellow. Um, She said it was tough to hear on the recording, it went kind of fast on those three, and they were regarding the fire department. So it just looks like she's double checking on the payment agreement. Holcamp made a motion to approve payment agreement, Commissioner Garrett seconded. Is that accurate? Okay, so we'll call that one good. Bond resolution, this is one of them that she struggled on hearing. Commissioner Polkamp made a motion to approve the bond resolution. Was there anything further in that you guys remember?
No, it was just for the
Just
one as written from the bank, the SARS code.
perfect, so we'll just add in, made a motion to approve bond resolution. And then the closing certificate, same thing. Polkamp made a motion to approve the closing certificate. Meyer seconded. Does that sound accurate?
Was there closing?
There was.
Or was either Paul or John? Those are only choices.
Okay.
Pretty sure Paul did the third one.
Okay. I think those were the only areas she had questions on. Yes, I don't see any other yellow. didn't take into account the trees. Last time I had looked at your approved expenses though, there was 8,100 in, it was like a miscellaneous line item, just dollars to preferably use to spend out of. And then there was $3,000 left to spend in the construction in progress. Typically, construction in progress is where you have spent out of to do headstones. So that might, you know, you could use that. You could go up to 11 grand if you needed to, easily per the approved expenses.
But some of that,
With that extra 6 grand in there, you know, you could probably be a little more flexible if you'd like.
but
That's-
6 can carry over, right, and you can use that as needed.
Yep.
So, it'd be safe to say that 60,000 would be,
That'd be
and
easy.
it would also keep us so that we don't have to worry about losing meals on it.
Yep. That would be workable.
Yes, I would make a motion, we need to do a motion, make a motion to, spend $6,000 on headstones on the lifting up this year with Dave.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Jason, second by Nicole. Any other discussion? Paul? Yes. Jason?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
Any other? Motion carried.
Thank you. And then, Casey, were you gonna bring up, I see we got the dinner packet, the Hillsboro Fire Hall building app? Is that on our, I didn't see it on the agenda.
We didn't put it on the agenda. Jake had asked me about it today, so then I had Abby print you guys off copies. You know, kind of the policies, they should probably have it go through planning and zoning first, but I said we'd put it in front of you guys tonight if you'd like to look at it.
So he talked to me a little bit too, I guess what he would hope is that even if we could approve it pending the, when's the next planning and zoning?
Not till next month.
for a
I
penny
thought
and
that
for a
was their
pound.
original intent to begin with,
They're
so.
trying to add more production in there, actually. It sounds like they're gonna bring in production from one of their other facilities, so.
Correct. They presented to HEDC whatever week it was, they presented what their very extensive expansion.
Yeah.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Jason makes the motion, is there a second? Seconded by Paul. Any other discussion?
state has to sign off on that. Mechanical doesn't have anything like that in Hillsboro, but like they have internal mechanicals, like in Grand Forks and Fargo, where you have to hold that particular license to be inspected. We just don't have that here. Electrical and plumbing are required regardless. Through the state, not through us. Oh, it's on the- I'll second.
Moved by Paul, second by Nicole. Is there any other discussion? Nicole?
Yes.
John? Yes. Paul? Yes. Jason? Yes. And a yes for me. Motion carries. Okay, we'll get moving on all of that and move forward. Appreciate it. I think that's all I got today. Next we'll go on to city officers. We'll start with Stephen Yarda.
I got a few things to bring up today. I'll do 3 of them, and Yarda can do 2 of them. Dropped off the rate study. Annually, AHS does a rate study for water, sanitary, storm, electrical, and waste, I guess. And show all the average prices for all the other communities, 5,000 and below. And so Hillsboro is sitting pretty well for their water and sewer rates, but you can look at them. We got 4 books dropped off there. If anybody wants to read through them, pretty informative. Get a good comparison to the other communities. Coming up here this fall, there's a submittal that needs to be done for the lead and copper, and Rachel put together a task order for the to help Casey with the lead and copper inventory submittal this fall. It's due on middle of October, I think it is. And the next time that the state looks at the putting any more money out to the public isn't until November, so this would fall under the responsibility of the city to either do themselves or hire somebody to prepare. So Rachel put together a document or a task order to help with that, and it was it's going to be continuously ongoing until we get the state funds to take it to the next level. But right now it's $66,290 to help update the inventory, put together all the submittals for the North Dakota DEQ, and help with the mailings and stuff like that. And she put together a hourly cost-based estimate of $62.90. And the submittal is October 16th is the deadline for submitting the next spreadsheet to DEQ, so it's coming up in a month. What's that? What was done? We did all them mailings a couple of years ago, and then sent out them scratch cards where you could, so everybody could find out what kind of pipes they had in their basement. They could scratch them and then test them to see if they had lead or not. And we had an app where they could go on and update their location and what kind of pipes they had and stuff. And the state helped with that part, and then now we're waiting for the next phase, and the next phase would be to go door to door and knock on doors and see if you can get in and test it for them. And then, what's that?
But
But,
they're supposed to do it themselves, aren't they? With
yep,
that scratch
the
pad?
first phase they're supposed to do themselves.
Yeah, the first round was difficult because it was an app, like they had to, like, go into the website or, you know, find a way to do it, and there's a lot of people that are like, I don't know how to report, like, I don't know how to do this, because it was more technological. No, I didn't think so, but that was one of the things was like, I don't know how to do this with my technology advanced.
Yeah, it's 11, between 10 and 20%. I thought it was low, but apparently Hillsboro was one of the better ones. But
That's because they
it was
pushed it
still
really
very
hard.
But you don't have to load control. It's the same thing.
Right.
The same response. It's
I did mine at home,
Thank you.
and the firms did theirs.
I did
So
mine.
the city of Hillsboro is on the hook to get the inventory updated this year, and then we're still waiting for the state to authorize money to move forward with the next phase. They started with this summer with smaller communities, and they never made it up as far as the size of Hillsboro yet, but we're hoping that the next wave of money that comes out, Hillsboro will fall under that category.
Do we know who has done it? So we could potentially put beyond what we did with the load control, but you did test, then you get X amount of fee until it's done.
We do have an inventory of what houses responded and which ones didn't. And that's part of this inventory that needs to get updated and sent into the state.
For the mailings, is our office gonna have to do them like last time too?
Yep.
Or you guys would create them and then we would do all the stuffing of envelopes and stuff?
Yep.
Yep,
Unless,
check it.
unless you want Rachel to do it,
You know,
she didn't have that in her scope, but she can help with the letter.
there was a job for all three of us last time.
we have some part-time help.
Yeah, we have some part-time help.
That'd be great. Okay, thanks.
That's a folder if you want to borrow it.
As a folder, like the letters?
Automatic.
That'd be great. I would love that.
Roy volunteered to lick stamps
Nice.
since he's not here.
Thanks, Roy. Okay, thanks,
So
Steve.
the
I was
second
curious.
step with the $6,200, you guys make sure everybody has been reported?
No, this is to get the inventory updated and get the paperwork submitted to EQ for the 26 inventory.
Charge you that inventory?
What's that?
I'm confused.
This inventory has to be updated every year if it's done, or if the full inventory's been done or not, or completed or not, or if the full inventory has not been completed, the city is still required to maintain this inventory and keep the DEQ updated on the status of everything. So even though they're not providing money to complete the inventory, they're still requiring you to keep your inventory up to date with them until, no.
You don't have anything new.
Well, there's still paperwork you gotta, well, it's a state, there's still paperwork you gotta submit every year.
And there has been stuff added throughout the year, Paul. If we get into a house, if we get into a house, I would take a picture, just put it in there.
So there has been some added to
Some,
And if we did it, it'd probably cost us $10,000 to contact them, so. And later, you can get it done. But it
This is just paperwork, this doesn't have anything to do with actually going out and verifying.
No, this is just getting keeping the paperwork up to date for one more year.
have a motion to approve task orders for
Lead and copper.
lead and copper. Or somebody want to volunteer?
Just a quick question. So I know that, wasn't there a certain timeline that had to be changed over to? Like you had to replace that copper? It wasn't just about inventory, was it?
it's a 10-year process.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Stages.
Okay.
the next phase that the state will authorize will be to do, go door to door. And then I think the next one after that would be to, dig up curb stops and
That's a big one, yeah. That's a
so.
big one.
Off biblical, just like electrical.
That's the state.
It's
Yeah,
federal.
that's federal.
It is federal,
It's
yeah.
federal.
No, but I'm talking about inspectors, should be one.
And I think the most effective is small communities with the, not much help to do with this stuff.
Right.
Said maybe we put a fee on it, if they don't do it. Do I have a motion to approve the task order?
I will make the motion to approve the task order.
Nicole makes a motion to let the copy task order, is there a second? Second. Moved by Nicole, seconded by Jason, any other discussion? Paul? John? Yes. Nicole?
Yes.
Jason? Yes. And yes for me, motion.
Thank you. The pool project, the repair plans and specs for the pool are coming along. When I checked this morning, they said they should have the plans and specs done by the end of this week and get them out for advertisement. So it'll be advertised for 3 weeks, and we'll see what we get back for prices on that. And then Yard is up next. He's going to talk about the televising and then and that potential task order to take the paving project on. Yard is the aide to us civil practice leader, so I thought I'd bring the biggest guns I could. Should I introduce you? Ladies and gentlemen. Sit down, sit down.
You'll understand the article, Counselor, to ask them the last question.
Okay. This should be fairly simple. One thing that I think you all did last time was Steve brought a task order for the sanitary sewer to take a look at the televising, look at the water main and do some modeling to see if there's any water main utilities that need to be replaced, and then just kind of pull all those together. The one thing that Steve and I talked about, and one thing that maybe we'll need to take a look at is as we combine that with the road assessment, help the city of Hillsboro with any special assessment, cost estimates, do the mock assessment rolls, assist with the public meetings, things like that. We can have that as a separate task order, or we could just combine it with that original one that was passed at the last meeting. So I don't know if you have a preference one way or the other. The additional tasks regarding the road, the special assessments, the meetings, and tying those two together, it would be about $9,500 for that task order. So we could have those, I think if it was $12,500 for the one that was passed last time. So it would be, we can either do one for both of those. It would take it up to kind of the preliminary engineering phase. So it would be phases 01, 02, and then, once we have all those numbers, take a look at, what it would take, have some cost estimates, looking at the sewer televising tapes, and then the road network. Then we'd have some, real numbers to be able to share with some of the citizens. So just wanted to know kind of the preference on what you guys would like to see there. You still need to do them both. The only thing would be if it complicates things for maybe Casey and you guys here, since you guys already approved that one. If you wanted to keep them separate now. If it makes it simpler to just have them separate, it's not a big deal either way.
We'll work with whatever.
It's not my decision. I'm leaving that one up to you guys.
My office will work with whatever.
Ultimately, we can figure it out on that, on whether it's a separate or a safe, but ultimately, we have to decide if we want to spend $9,500 more.
Yeah, so if you look at that, the 9,500 plus the 12,000, so you're looking at 22,000 for that. I do have good news associated with that as well. I think Steve mentioned to me that he had mentioned something about 160,000. We did get 3 quotes back for I had him break it down per dollars per foot for sewer televising and then dollars per foot for sewer cleaning. So if they needed to clean it, just so we got better video footage of those lines. And pipe detectives was the cheapest one by a considerable amount for 111,000, and that was to do 53,000 linear feet of pipe throughout town, which is a significant amount. Obviously, if we end up doing more cleaning or wanted to look at a different part of town, we already have that price per foot for both cleaning and televising. If there's parts of town that were maybe cleaned, I think Steve, you mentioned that it's by quarters, right? So every 4 years, if we start maybe with the part of town that was cleaned the most recently, and so if they came this summer and we start with that part of town and we don't need to do any cleaning in that area, you're saving 80 cents per foot on that. So the 111,000 is if they had to clean and televise 53,000. If you end up not having to clean a lot of that, the price will go down type of thing.
How much does he do every year?
We do a quarter of county.
Which is like 20.
And I think, how many feet was there? I was asking Steve because I think he took, how many feet did you count when you looked at the GIS for the total town? Well, I think the 53, but you took some off, didn't you?
Yeah, if we took off like Prairie View and River Walk, it dropped down. You're not gonna see it.
But I thought that dropped it down to 53. What was the original one when you looked at? I think there's about 60,000. So if you're doing a quarter of the town, you're looking at about 15,000 feet that was most likely cleaned, on average.
Right. Well, I'm just thinking that if we did this, then now we don't have to do it now for a couple of years. We're actually saving some money.
We'll still do, there's some we do every single year that are notorious spots, but
Right.
we reduce in the
It would reduce our overall
next
spending
few
on.
years of what we need to, yes.
Yeah.
I think since you got such a good price, we televised on Prairie View and Riverwalk. If prices were gonna come in high, we could always pull them out because that was PVC pipe, but, they're 20 years old now, I suppose, both of them developments.
Yeah, that one's probably closer to 30, 25.
So I think since the price is really good, I think you should leave them in there. Who does the television or the jetway?
Yeah, so Jetway just billed us for 24,000 for sewer cleaning and televising here just in September 15th, so.
They did a couple of stretches that, that we got issues on, so a couple blocks.
It is a televised, but they don't do anything with it.
No, they just hand over
Okay, so that might use some of that.
Absolutely.
a couple blocks of it.
Right.
Yeah, if you, are you saying if they televise it, they hand you guys the tapes? Yeah, so if we have some tapes, that's stuff that you don't have to do, we can take a look at what you've done recently and do you always use Jetway?
Yeah, we have in the past.
Okay.
They're close, they're always here, right, in emergency.
Okay.
Or with Jeff.
Jetway was second. They had a price per linear foot of $1.63 to televise and then $2 a foot to clean it. Pipe Detectives was $1.20 to televise, 80 cents to clean it. The one thing I will say with Pipe Detectives is, the 80 cents to clean it, that is usually jetting. It doesn't count their, any sort of rotary tool or something that they need to send in if they need to cut any services that are protruding or any large blockages or something like that. So there is, some unknowns. So they're giving us just the cost if they needed to jet it to get in there, but if there's big obstructions and they need to do so. But definitely if there's tapes from more recent televising, we can utilize those and then you don't have to televise as much. But the numbers we're getting, it's significantly less than the, you can still go out for quotes and just award it. You don't have to publicly advertise, so that's nice.
So the first question, are you guys want to move forward with the 9,500 add-on? Just so that
I'll make a motion to add it on to the
Okay. Moved by John, is there a second?
Where would that come out? The same?
Same.
Second.
Municipal infrastructure fund, and I think we should begin.
I think so too. Let's see where it's coming from.
I'll second that.
Moved by John, seconded by Nicole. Is there any other discussion?
So this will take us all the way up to preliminary design. And so depending on how you guys want to handle it through public and stuff, if we're going to do public hearings or if there's going to be any, you're talking about a vote at one time, but I don't know if that's not required, right?
Well, it can be protested out, yeah.
We talked, I think our best option would be to, I think, have our options to the public, say option A, option B, option C, and have a vote. If Jared can make it work, that we would bond up to X amount for whichever one they think we should go with or not at all. Because it could be 20, 30, 40.
Yeah, and maybe you're seeing this when you did the lead and copper and the response you got there, but when you do a vote that involves people's money and rates being raised, you usually just get the people that are voting no to vote. You're not going to get a lot of yes votes, so careful how you, if you're actually looking at doing a paving project or some sort of paving project, just keep that in mind, that how that actually gets done. That's typically why, when there's paving project and it's a special assessed project, it's something the city's deciding to move forward with unless it's protested out by 50% of the people that will be assessed.
Darryl, what's your comment on that? What's your comment? You're shaking your head.
Well, all the years I've been here and listening to the voting and everything, they say no to everything here, but when we had those mill taxes, to raise the mill taxes, they were raised up, it was up, said yes, for everything to go up.
I mean, I'll say one thing, the whole reason that we're looking at the water and the sanitary and the storm is because we don't want to double up on work. That's the whole reason why we're going through this televising and why I even just mentioned right now, if you guys have tapes, we'll take those and that can then be taken off so you don't have to televise things twice. The one thing that we're very much proponents of is to make sure that if you are going to get into a street and rip it up, because that is expensive and that's what people see, is that you look at all the infrastructure that you have underneath to make sure that it is safe. Because, you brought up one point where clay tile, you want to remove that. That's not always the case. I've seen a lot of clay tile pipe that even though it's really old is in really good shape. And at that point, why replace it? Just to say you're replacing clay tile, So we're very conscious of the fact that there's a lot of individuals on fixed income in smaller towns, and you have to do what's best for your community. You also want to make sure that you're not doing emergency repairs, because that's when it costs the most, ultimately. And usually that happens in the middle of winter, and it's not fun for anyone. But you're doing all this investigation right now so that you know the health of all your infrastructure underneath your pavement. You're tying it in with the pavement assessment that we had for years prior, and then, putting together some cost estimates so ultimately the commission and the city officials can make a decision on, what can we handle? And then you can start looking at, okay, what types of things can we do to take some of the burden off citizens? When we did the citywide utility and pavement project in Larimore, we had looked at everything from special assessments to, property taxes to utility rates, can we raise those a little bit, to having the city vote on, a 0.5% sales tax increase. So then it's not just the people that live in town, but it's also the people that come work in town or people traveling through town that help pay for some of the projects. So you're looking at a little bit of everything, but ultimately you're gathering all that information so that then you can make an informed decision for what's best for your community.
I understand that, we've already done this same scenario 3 different times. Not quite, but I mean.
We have, not since I've been on the commission.
The 2008 project, okay, that was paid, that was billed because we paid 20% and the state paid.
But that was different, that was.
Yeah, that was not done by the state. But right in front of my house, before the streets on, up, in front of my house and also on Second Street, Second or Third Street, where
Right, but that's still different though, because that project was paid for by the whole community, it was not paid for by just you.
yeah, I understand
And
that.
that was a different, so the 2008 project was just highway 81. And the reason that we had to pay for that was the citizens said, and the commission at that time listened to the city residents and said, we want a wider street. We don't want, it narrowed up like the highway department wanted to do. They wanted the parking, they wanted all the things. That's why we have nice cement all the way down and it's nice and wide. If DOT would have left it the way that they were planning, if you go back and look in the minutes and what they were planning, they were gonna narrow it up, you would have lost all the parking in there, and it would have just been a highway right through town. You wouldn't have had any of those things. So it's not really the same, it's different because it was just one portion of town. Now, we're looking at the whole community.
Yeah,
And so, are we going to probably have to tear up 81? No, because we'll look at it and say, well, we just did that in 2008. It's probably going to be okay. We're still going to look at it and make sure, and look at everything. But our goal here is, we probably have spent $200,000 on assessing and looking at all this stuff. $200,000 is not much in the aspect of if we went and put, I think it was $14 million the last time we looked
Yeah, so pipe detectives is the low, jetway was the next highest, and then drain services was the third one. So drain services was 323,000. And we did have pipe detectives do the sewer televising. This is about 5 years ago, 6 years ago in Buxton, and they did a really good job. The tapes were very clear, and they did a good job with reporting. So we do have, good reference.
For Jetway's quote, do you happen to know if they're adding, like subtracting what they've already done with their tapes?
No, the way that we did it is we just gave them 53,000 linear feet. I would like a price for televising per foot and a price for cleaning per foot. So what we can do now is gather all the information that the city already has, and if it's, and we can, that's part of this task order too, is to just have the conversations with city staff, where the problematic areas are, things like that, and then we can coordinate which areas we'd actually like to televise. Ultimately, if it's significantly lower, the economy scale, the prices might go up if we take quite a bit off the 53,000. But for the most part, I think a lot of these companies, it's just the mobilization cost and the rest of it. Once they're in town, it's fairly simple for them. To camera, for pipe detectives, it was $1.20 per foot, and cleaning was 80 cents per foot. Jetways was $1.63 to camera and $2 to clean.
I assume the difference is pipe detectives, but just jetting.
It might be. I can't say that with absolute certainty. I can ask for that, but yeah. Some of it is just, if Jetway is just a little bit bigger, if they, pay their employees more, if their mold costs cost a little bit more, it's just broken down that way. Where are they out of? Okay. Steve will check here. Jamestown does sound right, yeah. And the nice thing, if the commission makes a decision tonight, is to be able to let them go that let's get moving. The quicker you have the information, the quicker you can start having some real numbers, to then be able to have those meetings. It is a little bit easier for them to work when it's obviously a little warmer out than through the middle of winter.
The timeline from when you get all of the data from Jetway or pipe detectives, how long do you think until you have a final product for us?
So the coordination with the city staff and reviewing of the tapes and then coordinating it with the pavement assessments, I'd say if you give us another 3-4 weeks after we have all the information collected, we'd be able to then compile it all, have a meeting for in front of the city here, provide a tech memo with just kind of some cost estimates for some different options. So I would say, if today we decide to give it to one of these companies, then the next thing would be to see how long it would take them. If they tell me it's probably 2-3 months, then add another month for that for us to be able to combine, look through all that information, and then report back to the city.
The main purpose of this is to determine what areas we're going to have to replace.
The purpose of looking underneath is to see if the road above it is in such a state where, you're looking at it as a, which one's going to fail first. If the road is in good condition and your utilities underneath are in fairly decent condition, then maybe that's a section that you don't even worry about. if your water or your sewer, you know, whether your water is cast iron or your city staff say that's where they have typical breaks, or your sewer looks like it's got a lot of cracks in it, that might be an area that you want to replace no matter what. But you're still looking at kind of the pavement condition index above it too. So you're kind of coordinating it. You know, if you're looking at a color coordinated map, you know, if you're putting your water in red and your sewer in red and your road in red, that's an easy fix. You're going to do that whole block. But you're looking at all three and then looking at the probability of kind of failure. You know, you're trying to simplify it for the city so that they don't have emergency repairs there. So that's ultimately what we're going to be looking at, is which areas do you prioritize first?
So the cleaning and televising is to find out about the condition of the sewer lines.
So maybe clean and then televise, right?
Yes.
Like you said, it would save us then on the next couple of years, that we wouldn't have to do as much as we've done. We will have those proper area lists down by JR.
From Casey's, east, the great area where it's put down.
Sewer years.
Yeah, you don't televise water, but you can look at what we've got in our task order that was approved last time, is just looking at the sizes and materials, and then making sure that, you know, you've got adequate flows and pressures kind of throughout town. If there's any areas where the sewer comes in after we see the tapes that are bad, you know, that might be an area where if the water is cast iron, let's say, we might replace it since we've already got it dug up because we're going to be replacing sewer or stuff like that. So again, you're looking at it holistically by looking at all the utilities and the pavement.
We got the water main all modeled, so we can look at that, see if there's any pipe size need to be changed, or if there's any loops need to be added, or whatever we can improve that.
Any other questions? What would you guys like to do? Would you like to move forward tonight on it?
Where would we locate the fund now?
Municipal infrastructure. Make sure it's buried up.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Jason makes a motion.
How much? The 111, whatever, for that.
With pipe detectives?
If we do the pipe detectives, would Jetway has already given you the ones that they've already done?
Yeah, I know.
You have them already?
It's not a lot, it's a few blocks, but yeah, I have one. So I'll give you the.
So maybe I have a question then. So if they clean, are they just televising the ones where you guys have issues?
There's a couple.
Okay, otherwise they just clean without televising? Okay,
We asked to do a certain spot.
okay, okay.
Is there a second? Seconded by John. So you're saying some of them they just clean, not televise, right?
Yeah, that's, in the past, it's just been clean, over time, and if there is an issue.
Then you
or
are.
question,
So any of the tapes that we've had over the last few years, you can give it to us.
Yeah, I just know, I'm sure there might be a few past years, but I only know what I have.
So we got a few more on our. Right.
or two positions out to two individuals per your guys' motion. One of the individuals took a position, Greg Garza, accepted a position. Aaron Roll will not be accepting a position. So I would like some direction on what to do with this. The hope for Aaron was to be the water wastewater supervisor, after probationary period. And it wasn't anything to do with wage, he just had a very good opportunity come up that he couldn't pass up. So, with that, I would like some direction, if not now, probably fairly soon, on what to do, with Zach's intentions on wanting to not do the supervisor role. What would you guys ideally like me to do? Would you like me to advertise for a water wastewater superintendent? Do you want to stick with public works laborer again? What are the thoughts, I guess?
Do we need a wastewater supervisor at this point? Like right now, just considering he's the only one doing water all day?
I think he's feeling overwhelmed, and so we need to alleviate some help for him to take some of that load off.
Right, I thought Angel was running water, no?
I guess
Angel was gonna be more of a help, not as a secondary, not necessarily as.
Everybody's taking on some, everyone's gonna take tests, but we haven't put anyone towards.
Right, that specific, and that, I can't remember his name, Cody, the guy from Grand Forks.
Oh, Kelby.
Kelby.
Yep.
And that was a no-go there too for,
He's a part-timer, so, yeah, he's
That's
doing,
right.
he's a flexible part-time for kind of working with Jay and just getting items done. So, it has been stressed very many times that, Zach really does want somebody in his role. So that's why I put the question out to you guys on how you would like me to advertise.
So, our options are we can advertise or look at somebody that we have that maybe that can help alleviate and give that a try for a while. Or see if we can find, it's been quite a while since you mentioned that, so hopefully we can find something like this.
I think we need to find somebody, and the question becomes what's kind of big. Like, especially if they're, be a difference if they want to work towards it, or if they already have it.
right,
That's where the option could be, we could ask Greg if it's something that he would be interested in. He does have business management degree, which may be helpful for that, and try to find another public works laborer.
So you gonna show that interest?
We were gonna sit down and visit with Greg. He seems to take on it pretty well. He's still very young.
right.
We can visit with him about it, yeah.
So you still need then somebody else to fill it.
I would say just put two ads out there, I would say just put one out for labor and put one out for, supervisor and go for a chance, not else than else. My thought, you guys?
I mean, I would agree, I don't wanna keep pulling Jay's men away from him every time.
Apply for several roles.
As far as advertising, with water, wastewater being a little more specialized, do you want me to stick to the, regular advertising methods of utilizing the newspaper and the radio and Facebook/posters around town? Or do you want me to use online advertising as well? That's what we did for, when we were looking for a public works director, that's what we did do. And we had some applicants, but, that didn't work out, which is
get more applicants that doing it that way, or equivalent, or less doing it that way? I don't know if it reach.
I think we had, I mean, we posted for a good while, we spent a good amount of money on it, and we maybe got, 5 or 6 is what I was leaning towards, is what we ended up, 4 we ended up trying to interview, I remember that. But yeah, we had a couple others actually apply.
It's such a specialty thing, you know, you have to have many people in town with the water.
Right.
That's, and
I
that's
mean, you
kind
can
of,
do preferred,
We have
but
what?
yep, that's kind of why I throw the question out there. How far out do you guys want me to advertise, I guess? So,
Do you have to state certification for the chemical control?
and that is a good question, I mean,
Those are different.
but I don't know if you, it is so specialized that the people that are already doing it are probably pretty much gonna stay in their own, like, you know what I mean? They'll probably stay where they're at, which makes it hard, so I honestly think this is gonna be one where they're gonna have to train into the position. I just do. I could be way off on that, but, so, the question is, out there or not out there?
Yeah, I understand.
I would support whatever way you want to do, whatever
I mean, yeah,
I don't know what you're responsible for. I don't even know how much you spent on it either.
we did, yeah, it's expensive.
because you had to run it 2 times, I think, if I remember correctly.
What was that you advertised on, the
Public Works Director on Indeed.
what LinkedIn, what?
Indeed, yeah.
Although I've seen results from Indeed that justify those fees in any career. It's not just from out of state, they never end up taking Indeed in if you offer it to them.
We did get one.
We-
Got Roy out of it.
We did, yep, we got Roy out of it. We had some good interviews, you know, we almost had a Public Works Director, but they, you know, backed out, they didn't wanna, you know, go too far from their family, yeah. Yep. So, they were a little more local at least, Park River, I think.
And we didn't want to move to Hillsboro, correct?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Did it cost on anything? I don't remember if that did or not.
I can't remember on
It was a
LinkedIn.
little bit, but.
I mean, if it doesn't cost much, I would honestly recommend LinkedIn. It's a pretty big platform right now. I'd still stick to the probably the flyer and Facebook too.
Traditional
Traditional.
advertising methods. Okay,
That's my,
Yeah.
my cup of tea there, so.
okay. Thanks, you guys. That's all I have.
It's up to you guys too, if you guys wanna talk to anybody in-house and feel it out. You guys work with the people, so you'll be able to tell us who you think can handle it and who can't.
Alright.
just wasn't updated to follow state, and that's okay, that's totally fine. But yeah, so the request is to, allow the early opening on those Sundays.
Sweet, we might make a motion to approve like last time.
Is there a second? Moved by Jason, seconded by Paul. Any other discussion?
Probably. She came and filled it out fairly quick, so I'll be happy to ask her for that. Yeah, no, she filled it out pretty